Hello, football fans, and welcome to the 2017 edition of Franklin County Eagle football right here on your neighborhood network. I'm Kevin Tosh, alongside me Derek Woods and Mike Doyle, and we're here for our 2017 preseason show. Going to turn first to Derek. Derek, it's that time of the year again. You know, players put that summer work in. They put that weightlifting in. Now it's time to put it together here on the football field. Got a benefit game tonight against Northside.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. I feel like we always say, man, it's that time of year again. And then 10 weeks go by and we go, I can't believe this is already over. But, hey, it's hot. It's got to be time for football. These guys, like you mentioned, have put the time in, been lifting weights all summer, been working hard in this heat the last couple weeks at practice. And I'm sure they'll be ready for a preseason game number 2 here against Northside and get out there and hit some different colored jerseys. And it'll be a good test to find out what Franklin County has early on.
That's right. And, this is the only time of year you're allowed to talk about, what you lost last year. You go back to some of the players that were real big playmakers, and some of these young guys are going to have to step up into those positions. A couple of guys getting shifted around in positions, but really you've got to reload from last year. You improved from, no wins in the first season under Coach Edwards. You had 4 wins last year, could have easily had 6, and but you got to replace those players from last year.
You do, and if first comes to mind on the offensive side is Tyrese Clark. Young man carried the load really on offense. Early on in the season, easily had 1,000 yards. I mean, he was your go-to back. Who's going to step up and take that role? Obviously, we saw flashes of Sean Mans last year in his backup duties, and he's electric. He can make plays. He can break a game open in a heartbeat. But can he, on a consistent basis, carry the football, go to the right spots, hit the right holes, all the things that make a good running back, not just – here we go, let's run it. Obviously, you got Caleb Smith at quarterback. Young man can do anything. Nearly 1,200 yards passing last year, I think 11 touchdowns, had right at almost 800 yards on the ground and 8 or 9 touchdowns there. So, obviously, he is a highlight at quarterback. You've got experience on your offensive line, and then maybe mixing in some folks that haven't had so much playing time. So we'll see what's going on there. Receivers to replace, I tell you, some big-time receivers that have got to find, that have the ability to stretch the field, make the catch, and score. So offensively, you've got some key players back. You got some question marks. But you've got some really good players. Get the football in their hands and see what can happen.
That's right. If you look at that receiving core, you're losing Fred Mack, who broke many records last year with Caleb Smith in the passing game. Garrett Garman didn't come back. He's going to focus on track and field. He's an all-star at that. But, that receiving game, but that's something where you can plug in some of these athletes and get some more yards. And I think if you flip it over and you look at the defensive side of the football, again, replacing a lot of key players there, some of those senior leaders last year that were really important. Khalil Preston on the line, Jacob Smith, a name that we said a lot. But, it's a lot of players defensively coming back. And, again, some younger players going to be stepping up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you look at this defensive setup, the scheme that Coach Edwards has here, and that nose guard spot is a key role. Who's going to step into that? Who's going to fill that and solidify the middle of that defense and let this talented group of linebackers make plays? You're talking about Zach Chandler. I mean, that young man can do anything on the defensive side of the football, but the other guys are going to have to help him. Your defensive line, your ends are going to have to get pressure. And then in the secondary, we saw a lot last year of some inability to cover deep downfield. Are those improvements made? Do you have guys stepping in? You're replacing a Fred Mack on that side of the football too, who would absolutely lay somebody down when they came across the middle. Who's going to be that guy this year? It'll be exciting to see, but I think the pieces are there. It's finding ways to get those guys making plays consistently moving forward, especially the folks that are stepping in, that are new, that we haven't seen much of and haven't seen a lot of football at this level. It'll be really interesting to see, but, hey, I think it's exciting. Hopefully a good season coming up.
That's right. And if you look at the special teams for Franklin County, Jacob Comer returning again for the kicking duties. I think it's going to be his 3rd year kicking. Again, he had a shaky start, but we saw him last year really come on strong and a lot of clutch moments. And, again, a lot of explosive athletes back there in the return game. And his punting duties, it's always is who's going to come up this week and punt the football. But, again, we've saw players come up and really make a difference there. I'm going to turn now to Mike. Mike, you look at this team. New rotation of schedule. pick up a lot of tough teams this year. But again, Franklin County, again, they improved. They had 4 more wins last year than they did the year before. Could have had a couple more. And again, they're showing offensively and defensively. They're scoring more points than they did, in Coach Edwards' first year. They're allowing less points than they did in his first year. They're showing those signs of really moving forward.
Yeah, and I noticed last week, watched them in the monsoon, which was interesting because they're probably going to play some games in the rain, but they really looked quick off of the line. Started running the ball up the middle, but that didn't work too well for them, so they started outside. Quick line pullers coming out there, getting some good blocks on the outside. Looked really quick on that offensive line, and the backs came. I can't think of the junior's name that's coming up, but he's going to be a good addition to that backfield, and just a good, solid line up there, but not a lot of size. So they're going to have to do some rearranging of the plays, I'm sure, to use that quickness rather than go for the size.
That's right, and you also look at Franklin County going to start on the road this year. They open up against Liberty once again, and they have their second game also on the road against Salem before they come home for 3 games. So a couple important games early in the season, and it all started last week in those scrimmage, and it really started over the summer. But now that you're putting it on the field, it's an important time tonight against Northside, really solidifying what you got and looking forward to that first week.
Yeah, that's a good way to start out. Northside's got a good team. I always do have a good program, always in postseason play. But like you say, that this Eagle team picked up some pretty tough ones. That Stanton River team last year came up and was, I think, a runner-up in their division, and it was just they've still got a house in the backfield, is my understanding. So I'll be looking forward to seeing those teams. And we hadn't seen in a while. I remember the last time I've seen them, I was traveling on a bus with a shaking in my boots trying to get till we got there. But it was, teams like them, Salem, of course, is still there and still the tough team they always are. And it'll be an interesting year. Magna Vista, Magna Vista always starts out slow, seems to be, and wondering who they're going to put in there to come up with a good team. And hey, by the 5th game, which that's the one we got, they're a powerhouse every year. So that's just the competition that this Eagle team has.
That's right, an exciting season looking forward. As we said, they've added Salem back on the schedule. We're traveling to Salem. We're going to host Hidden Valley and EC Glass. We're going to be making a trip to Tunstall this year to close out the season. For the first time in several years, Franklin County is also going to have a bye week in Week 10 to prepare for that last game of the season, which could be very important trying to get into that playoffs. But again, a very exciting season looking forward as Franklin County prepares tonight to take on Northside in the benefit game. We're going to be right back. You're watching Eagle Football on Cable 12. We're back now with Franklin County Eagle head coach J.R. Edwards. Coach, thank you for taking time with us.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming around another season.
That's right. It's hard to believe your 3rd season here at Franklin County. Feels like just yesterday you were getting your start. But, we talked about earlier in our preseason show just the turnaround that this team has made in just your first 2 years, and it's just continuing to make improvements week in and week out. Have you saw that from the end of last year to right now?
Yeah, well, it's hard to tell. Like I was telling the kids, every year we're a big lump of clay right now, and we're trying to shape the edges and mold it into, every year is a different team, different leadership. We're going to be very young again this year. If you check our roster, probably see a lot of sophomores and juniors playing. But we're looking for those couple of senior leaders sprinkled in, and looking forward to getting some of these guys some good game experience.
No, it's still early. You haven't actually played a real game this year. You've had one scrimmage and getting ready to have the benefit game tonight. But how's this team different, do you think, from those first 2 years? And again, I know it's early.
Yeah, well, right now, probably our skill set, Our defensive, like I call it the shell, the linebackers, safeties, corners. We're a lot sharper. We're clicking and communicating a lot better. Very dedicated group in the weight room. Overall this off season, I probably had more guys that increase their maxes and things that they should be doing from my skill guys than we have in the previous 2 years.
Sure, and looking forward to next week on the road, first 2 games. You go to Liberty, then you go to Salem. What are you going to be telling your student athletes here this upcoming week, preparing them for this first game?
Well, just get better. That's what we do. Every practice, try to get better at something. If you're coached on something, don't make the same mistake twice. And that's really what we're trying to focus on is getting in that consistent brand of football.
That's right, and it's a new year, new opportunity for fans out there to get out here and support these Franklin County Eagles. What would you like to say to the people out there in TV land that to get out here and support these Franklin County Eagles?
Well, we need you out here. It's got to be community based, and this is a great community, and they're so supportive of their kids, and we need you out here. This creates an atmosphere, and we got some heavy hitting teams coming in here, and they should bring some good crowds, and we want to make sure that we got the red and white packed out.
That's right. It's going to be a tough season, but it's going to be a fun season this year. And again, thank you for taking time with us, and we'll see you next week in Bedford.
Thank you, guys. See you then.
That's right, and that's Franklin County Eagle head coach J.R. Edwards. We're going to be right back to continue our preseason show. You're watching Eagle football on Cable 12.
Back now, Cable 12 with Franklin County Eagles football. Joining us now down on the field, a treat for us, Athletic Director Crystal Worley. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you guys for electing to come and broadcast our football games and support our teams and all the great things you do for our athletic program. We appreciate it.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for all that you do to help us. Tremendous help getting information to us, helping get us into ball games and allowing us to do this. We really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you guys. As many people as we have here at games, the more people we have viewing our kids doing great things, because if you're standing here today, it's a sacrifice for our student athletes to be here. It's hot, it's muggy. Could be sitting at home playing video games under the air conditioning, but they're electing to be out here to represent their school, their town, and this community, and I'm very proud of them.
Well, we'll talk about football. It's football season. New scoreboard here at the stadium. That's a big deal. What else is going on around the football program?
We are had a good year. Had a lot of positive impact during the season. We had a really core group of guys that bought into the program and came and worked very hard to establish a really good foundation going into this season. So we're really happy with the way we're progressing. If you would ever have an opportunity to go and look on our weight room doors, you would see our kids are progressing. They're getting bigger, they're getting faster, and they're getting stronger. So we're heading in a direction that we really want to be in, and we're pretty proud of that.
Obviously, football, a huge part of athletics in the fall. Talk a little bit about some of those other sports that are going on that may not get the recognition, but are also still very successful.
Absolutely. All of these athletes that started practice in this heat are making a tremendous sacrifice, as well as their parents and the people that support them. It's not easy when you're as big as Franklin County getting our athletes to the venues that they need to be in. Our cross-country team, they've been practicing and they've been working very hard. They open up on the 26th with an invitational at Wade Park. There's an open race at 8 o'clock. And then we'll bust into the high school divisions and the junior high divisions. Our volleyball team had a scrimmage last night, played in a jamboree, did a really good job last night with Salem. Our competition cheer team, they've been practicing, getting ready. They've got some meets, some matches and events starting in September and October. And we also have our golf team. We are reigning regional champions, and we have a state champion, John Hatcher Ferguson, who's trying to follow up with his first title with another one. So we got a lot of excitement here. The new scoreboard, I'm kind of waiting to see the illumination of it myself, but we're pretty excited.
Well, lots of exciting things going on. Finally, how can folks in the community get involved? How can they help you? How can they help Franklin County athletics the most?
Of course, we want you here. We want you to support our student athletes. We want to see you wearing red. It means a lot to our students. It means a lot to me as administrator. We have great support here by businesses and community organizations that just love this school and love our athletic program. So I'm very blessed and very fortunate to have that. If you're not able to get here, please follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I try to get it out there. I want people to know far and wide who we are and what we represent. And it's not just athletics. Our kids do a great job in the classroom. They win all Piedmont honors, and it's just an outstanding atmosphere to be a part of.
As a faithful follower of those things, I appreciate them because I want to know scores all the time, what's going on all the time. So you do a great job. We appreciate you. Again, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Go Eagles, go Cowboys, and go Wahoos.
Hey, I like the last one a lot more than the middle one, but hey, 2 out of 3 isn't bad. That's Athletic Director Crystal Worley. We'll be back with more right here on Cable 12.
We're here with Franklin County guy, always with the striped shirt on, Andre Levacy. Andre, you've been around this every game I go to, either it's baseball or football one. Today we happen to be on the football field. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the new things going on in high school football for this year?
I can, Mike. I tell you the funny thing behind my officiating, I got into it in 1989 once I graduated from Ferrum College. I said, I'll do this for 2 months. And I'm going into my 29th year now, so I've kind of met my goal and expectations as far as officiating.
Didn't do well on math, did you?
No, I didn't. I didn't. But we do have some rules that are going to affect high school football this year. Most of it is in regards to player safety and our awareness in regards to how our game is officiated. One rule that comes into play is almost a rule if you follow college football. It's protecting a player in what officials call a defenseless player. And that's a player that could be either A, away from the play to where he has no impact on the play, or B, he's actually vulnerable and in a position to where he cannot protect himself. You're going to see that being called in a lot of cases where a receiver goes up for a pass, the ball is over his head and he's outstretched, and the defensive player comes in and makes a hit to where the wide receiver has no way of protecting himself. That would be a 15-yard penalty, personal foul penalty in regards to that. That's a new rule going into this year. Another new rule is what we call a block, to where a wide guy is actually coming in what's called a crackback block. Those blocks in the past could be done to where a blocker would be leading with his shoulder pads. Now the block has to be what is called an open palm block. I'm going to kind of give a demonstration to where he's coming in from the edge and he has to have an open palm, kind of like I've got my palms on Mike's shoulder here. That would be a legal block. If I do not have open palm and I lead with my shoulder pads, that would be a personal foul penalty as well, and that's also a 15-yard penalty. A play in the past, if you followed any high school football, the old rule was what's called a face guarding, to where a defensive back could actually be beat on a play and would come up with his arms and his palms to distract a wide receiver. That would, in the past, correct, not looking back and making a play on the ball. In the past, that would be what we call a pass interference penalty. This year, the defensive back can actually do that if he makes no contact and he just stretches out his hands and his arms. He can distract, and that would be a legal defensive play. That's huge because high school football now, Mike, has really changed in regards to a lot of passing schemes, a lot of up-tempo, and you have situations where a defensive player is beat and he's going to wave his arms, and if he doesn't make contact, that's a legal play.
Well, that's great.
Another play that has changed is what we call the pop-up on a kickoff, to where the kicker, and a lot of kids who are playing soccer have transitioned over to be kickers in high school football. they'll actually have a kickoff on an onside to where the ball is actually kicked. It hits the ground about a yard from where he kicks it, and it pops up, and then the kickoff team will have 2 or 3 gunners to where they're running down and try and receive it after it's gone 10 yards. In the past, that was a legal play. This year, that is an illegal kick, and that would be a 5-yard penalty, and that's a re-kick on that.
Okay.
All those rules, in my opinion, have come into effect because safety is the foremost of high school athletics now. And evidently, some of those plays, not necessarily in our area or games that Franklin County had contests in, but everybody in high school football plays under the National Federation of High School Athletics. And I guarantee you somewhere some of these plays have occurred to where someone said this is a dangerous play to put players in. So changes are for the better.
Well, I know, Andre, for all the years that you've been out here, I've always admired how you, when you go on the field, whether it's baseball or football, you are concerned with the safety, but you're also concerned that they control the outcome of the game and
Correct.
not officials.
Correct.
And I know the officials have got to be there so everyone follows it, but you're always and that's the way I consider a good officiated game, is when the officials let the players decide the outcome of the game, and I think that's great. You always do that well and keep them within the guidelines.
I appreciate your kind words, Mike. And I tell you, when I first got into this 29 years ago, back in 1989, we had not only outstanding officials, but it was great people that really taught me how to do things the right way. Wayne Clemens over in Boone's Mill. Wayne comes to every Franklin County high school game. Mr. Doug Beatty is also a great guy, and I hate to start calling out names because you always leave somebody out, but you know, over the years you develop relationships with a mentor, and they took the time to just show me how to run a game the right way, not only in football, but basketball, baseball, college basketball, college baseball, and you know, I've had some success with it. It's really been fun for me.
Well, I tell you, we really appreciate you taking the time today on this good warm afternoon.
It's summertime again, isn't it?
It is. But it'll be cool nights here before too long. We'll be ready to play some football.
We are, and I tell you one last thing. I want to give a plug to Cable 12. In 29 years of officiating, I've had the opportunity of doing a number of state finals in all 3 sports. The association I work out of, we cover 32 high schools in Southwest Central Virginia and in the Roanoke Valley, and Cable 12, with your coverage of Franklin County athletics and Ferrum College, bar none, is the best coverage of high school and college athletics that I've ever been involved with. It makes me proud not only to have played here at Franklin County and Ferrum College, but to be associated with you guys.
Well, we appreciate that,
No
Andre.
problem.
It's a mighty nice thing for you to say.
Yeah,
We
well,
appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back with more of our preseason show in just a minute.
Back now to wrap up our preseason showcase here of 2017 Eagle football. Going to turn first to Derek. Derek, we've heard from the coach, we've heard from the athletic director, a lot of good things happening here at Franklin County. We saw him play on the field, and then again, positives coming out of tonight's benefit game.
Yeah, definitely. Enjoyed talking with Crystal Whirley. It's good to hear about other things in football sometimes, and while we're in this preseason show, it's our time to do it. A lot of excitement in Franklin County. Come out and support every athletic event that you can get to. These kids work hard, they play hard, they deserve everybody's support. As far as the football game goes, like you mentioned, seeing some good things. Hey, we saw a 80-yard touchdown run from Sean Mans, just broke it. Might have got touched at the line of scrimmage, and that's it. That's exciting. Good play up front so far on both sides of the football at the line of scrimmage. Offensive line, not giving up a whole lot of pressure. Caleb Smith, obviously, he's doing what he's doing. He's going to be a fun to watch. It's going to be interesting to see both sides progress as the season goes on. Right now, they're a little step behind, possibly a little slow. A lot of young guys. Hey, we're seeing a lot of those sophomores that Coach Edwards talked about out there on the field, and that's going to take a little while to get going. But I think the pieces are there to have a pretty good season.
That's right, that season starts next week at Liberty.
Sure does. Excited.
Right, going to turn now to Mike. Mike, again, you look at this team, and a lot of those names we talked about at the beginning of this preseason show that coming back from last year, we're seeing them step up into those senior roles and some of those roles that we knew that they could play. But we're also seeing a lot of new, fresh names stepping up and making a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, and I think I'm really impressed with the new guys coming up, and that'll push those guys with that experience too to develop a little quicker too, and get out of the chute here. You know, you're thinking about football when it's 93, I believe it was when I was coming up here. Well, it's these guys have worked hard, and you can tell by the size of these kids that went out on there that they're muscled up and they've hit the weight room. So we're going to see some improvement as it goes along, I'm sure.
That's right. And as we said, next week starts our season off. There's still time for any business or individual out there to get their name on Eagle football.
Absolutely. Just give us a call. We'll get you set up, and we can work it in your budget. Don't think you can't get it in your budget.
That's right. And you hear the excitement still going on behind us here. Benefit game against Northside, continuing big things happening for Franklin County. Good crowd out here tonight, but we expect to see even more as we go on the road next week to take on Liberty in Game 1. And that's going to wrap up our 2017 preseason football showcase. You're watching Eagle football on Cable 12.